Welcome to the League of Women Voters of Snohomish County Forum for Candidates for Everett School District Director Positions 1, 2, and 3. I'm Wendy Colbert, a member of the League. Thank you for joining us. Let me provide some background on the position. School district directors set general policy for the school system, employ school personnel upon recommendation of the superintendent, adopt and revise the annual operating budget, inform the public of the needs and progress of the educational system, administer school functions, and select the superintendent of schools. Candidates do not declare a political party preference. Candidates for Everett School District Director Position 1 are Shaina Langley and Roman Rewolinski. Candidates for Everett School District Director Position 2 are Jennifer Hirman and Janelle Burke, who is not joining us today. Candidates for Everett School District Director Position 3 are Anna Marie Laurence and Tom Clarke. It is the policy of the League to be nonpartisan. Therefore, we neither endorse nor oppose candidates or parties. The rules for participation in this forum were sent ahead of time to all candidates, and they have all agreed to follow them. I will pose the questions and will clearly state the amount of time allowed for each answer. We are using a countdown timer, which is visible to all candidates, and time limits on answers will be strictly enforced. The order for responses for the first question will be Shaina Langley, then Roman Rewolinski, then Jennifer Hirman, then Anna Marie Laurence, and finally Tom Clarke. I will then alternate candidates in the starting position to ensure a fair sequence. Let's begin. Candidates will have 90 seconds to respond to this first question. Candidate Langley, your question is, what are your top priorities for this office? Please explain why you are focusing on these priorities.
As an educator, I know that every decision the school board makes must be centered on school success. That's why my three biggest priorities are support for educators and education support professionals, including our instructional aides, bus drivers and custodians, community engagement, and safety. I'm focusing on these priorities because our students' success is dependent on educators who have the training, the resources, and the support they need to meet the needs of every learner. And we can't do it alone. As a teacher, I know how important it is to collaborate with families, PTAs, businesses, and organizations because they can provide real-world opportunities to enrich these young people's learning experiences. Most importantly, I'm focusing on safety because as a teacher, I'm the only candidate who's running who has to go back into the classroom after yet another school shooting. Safety is the foundation of learning, and it's the school board's duty to create and enforce policy that will keep our students, families, and staff secure when they're in our classrooms.
Thank you. Same question, candidate Rewolinski.
First of all, let me say thank you to the League of Women Voters for putting this on. It's such a valuable effort that you guys do. And also thank you to the viewers for taking the time to watch this. You know, school board races generally don't get a lot of attention. So if you're watching this, thank you. My top priorities are student achievement, safe, supportive schools, and fiscal integrity. First and foremost, of course, is student achievement. It has to be our focus because it's the foundation upon which we build a stronger society. When students succeed, they're better prepared for college careers, civic engagement, and to lead lives where they can contribute meaningfully to their communities. Second, safe and supportive schools are really necessary for achievement. Students can't thrive academically if they don't feel safe, welcome, and supported by the adults and the systems around them. Creating that environment is essential for learning to take place. And finally, fiscal integrity builds public trust and provides job security for staff involved in the education of our students. When our finances are strong and transparent, our teachers and all staff can focus on what matters most, serving students, while our community feels confident and proud supporting our schools.
Thank you. Candidate Hirman, your response.
Thank you. For my campaign, I'm running on the following top priorities. Number one, family and community engagement. I feel strong partnerships between schools, parents, and the community are essential components of successful schools. Strong school communities can uplift families and students, and teachers and staff feel supported in their work. At the district level, decisions are better when they have community input. So I'm also a big supporter of our advisory councils and committees there. Number two, academic success for all students. High academic performance is one of the main goals of any school district. We need to ensure that all students are not only meeting minimum standards, but are achieving to their highest ability. This is a main focus of our current strategic plan in our district. We're on year 5 implementing that, and I'd encourage everyone to take a look online to see updates. Number three, safe school environments. Students need to feel secure and safe in order to learn and thrive as individuals. This means investing in such things as door locking mechanisms, camera and security equipment. This also means that we need to have school communities where students and teachers know one another, and if and when problems start to arise, there are systems of supports in place. And then my last priority, ensuring financial stability. We need to allocate resources effectively to maximize their impact in the classroom and for our students. This is simply good governance of public funds. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Laurence, your answer, please.
First, academic success. There must be equitable access to the area of the community a student lives in. Such resources include early learning programs, classroom technology, and working with different lifestyles. In addition, with 60% minority students and a population of 70 different languages spoken, we need to educate all students efficiently to keep pace with the curriculum. Understanding English is fundamental. Our schools should provide online translation programs to accelerate student integration and success. We need to keep funding professional development for teachers who work with ESL students and continue to work on the district's strategic plan, ensuring reading proficiency by 3rd grade and increasing achievement in math and science. These are all critical to student success. Second, expanding student opportunities through career and technical education. This is a great way to prepare students graduating from high school to go directly into the workforce or college. While in school, they can earn an industry certificate like a CNA or get college credit. And third, safe schools. We need safe and functioning buildings and a place where students feel welcome, supported, and engaged in their school community. Thank you.
Thank you. And candidate Clarke.
Hello, yes. My name is Tom Clarke, and my top priorities for office are community engagement, creating safe and supportive schools, and responsible stewardship of the funds that taxpayers entrust us with. Um, I believe that strong schools are built and developed out of strong relationships. Those relationships are built between families, educators, students, and the broader community. I'm committed to inclusive, transparent dialogue that ensures that our district's strategic plan and leadership reflect the values of Everett's diverse neighborhoods. And I believe that every student, regardless of zip code, deserves access to high quality curriculum, technology, and support. And as some of the other candidates have addressed, I believe in safe and supportive schools. To me, safety goes beyond locked doors. It must include emotional support and equity. I'll work to dismantle disciplinary systems that disproportionately harm students and advocate for transparent responses to concerns raised by teachers, students, and families. Every classroom should be a safe space to learn, and every staff member should feel respected and protected. We need to make sure our students feel like their culture is celebrated in our schools. So I believe that we need to meet students where they're at, celebrate their native languages, and make sure that all of our curriculum materials are available in diverse translations. And then also being good stewards of the resources that the
Thank you.
community empower. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, candidate Clarke. Candidates will have 90 seconds for the next question. Candidate Rewolinski, you lead off on this one. What qualifications and experience make you a good choice to address these priorities?
First of all, I'm already serving on the school board, so I understand the work, the responsibilities, and the needs of our district. I also have a personal connection to our schools. When I joined the board, I had a child in each level, elementary, middle, and high school. And today, I've got an elementary school student and two high schoolers. I'm in our schools regularly through PTA leadership and other volunteering. I'm fully immersed in public education from the classroom to the boardroom. Professionally, I bring a skill set that is unique and valuable to an institution primarily led by educators. Uh, and that is a financial expert. Even I meet the definition of a financial expert set by the Securities and Exchange Commission. My background includes years of experience in financial reporting, forecasting, budgeting, resource allocation, and when I was at Aviation Technical Services on Payne Field, I led necessary and significant cost reductions without layoffs, which is a huge point of pride for me. And I think these are valuable skills and experiences that help to maintain strong schools.
Thank you. Same question, candidate Hirman.
Thank you. I'm in my fourth year serving on the school board. Currently, I'm the vice president and also served 2 years as the legislative representative. Since my own children started in Everett schools 16 years ago, I've been heavily involved in PTA, volunteering in school communities, and working with parent leaders across the district and throughout Snohomish County. I served on several district-wide committees, including a curriculum adoption committee for elementary math materials and the growth mitigation committee, where we readjusted school boundaries to balance our school enrollments. For my personal background, I've spent pretty much my entire life in and around schools and education. In college at USC studying economics, I volunteered for and then worked in a program called the Joint Educational Project, tutoring in area schools in Los Angeles. I have experience as a classroom teacher. I taught math and science in West Africa with the Peace Corps, and then went on to get my master's in education and taught math at Cupertino Junior High in California. So I have a great appreciation for our classroom teachers, having been one myself. I earned my PhD in education policy and research at Arizona State University. I had the opportunity to work as a policy analyst at the Arizona Board of Regents, so some higher education policy, as well as research in K-12, specifically around charter schools. So I think my experience in and around education and education policy and years as a parent in the Everett School District all help me have a broad view of our district and informs my work on the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Laurence, your response.
My legal training as a lawyer has taught me to analyze situations, gather the facts, and to look at all sides of an issue. When I worked as a court-appointed special advocate, I stood up for children's needs. As co-chair of the scholarship committee at the Rotary Club of Everett for the past 6 years, I added scholarships not only for students going on to college, but also for students interested in the trades, such as automotive, construction, and building trades. I have talked with students who have taken career and technical education, and also those that have completed summer internship programs, and learned how impactful it can be for a student who then now decides to choose to go directly into the workforce after high school. During my experience as a board member of a nonprofit for 35 years, I've gained management experience through decision-making regarding missions, staff, finance, and grants. I am engaged in my community. I am a consensus builder, and I value service above self. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Clarke, your answer, please.
Yes, I think I have two sons in Everett Public Schools, first off, so I'm an Everett Public School parent. Um, I'm a public school graduate, and I'm also a longtime volunteer in Everett Public Schools, volunteering at the Jackson PTA and also at the North Middle School PTA. And that's everything from organizing back to school events to doing trunk or treats to cookouts. And then in addition to that, I am an attorney and I work practicing family law primarily in Snohomish and King County. So I am uniquely positioned to understand some of the challenges that our student community face, especially coming from broken families or domestic violence situations. And I really have a heart for helping students and figuring out ways the district can provide resources to navigate student homelessness and different barriers that students face to having education. Also, prior to becoming an attorney, I had some trouble in school and I had to navigate the juvenile justice system. And I believe that my lived experience navigating that system and later becoming a lawyer gives me a deep understanding of how schools can either open doors or close them. And I'm committed to making sure that every door is open for our students here in Everett Public Schools and that students aren't left on the margins just because they get in trouble once or twice. Thank you.
Thank you. And candidate Langley.
Thank you. I'm running for school board as an educator, as a teacher who's worked in the classroom in Washington Public Schools for over 10 years. And I've seen firsthand what happens when students and families and staff have the support they need. Students succeed, they achieve their dreams, they go on to find amazing careers and lives and become contributors to their community. And I've also seen what happens when teachers don't have the resources they need. Success for those young people becomes that much more out of reach. And as someone who could have easily slipped through the cracks, had it not been for the caring adults and mentors in my life, I can't let that happen. My experience as an educator is what sets me apart. I mean, you wouldn't hire a fire chief who had never been in a burning building or ridden in a fire truck. So I see my value as an educator as a real asset to the school board. And my connection to Everett Public Schools is not only through Washington Education Association as a union leader, but additionally as the faculty advisor for the Washington High School Democrats of Snohomish County, and as Cultural Arts Commissioner, bringing arts education and connecting arts to our young students. And I have a lot to give our students, which I'm very excited for.
Thank you. Timer, please note that candidates will have 60 seconds for these next questions. Please adjust the clock. Candidate Hirman, you're starting on this one. How should school boards respond to community calls for removing any curriculum topics, subjects, books, and programs?
I believe there's a benefit for students learning that there are people different from themselves and learning from them as well. And so generally, students should learn about various points of view. And for the most part, I don't support removing books. I have served on a curriculum adoption committee, although for math curriculum, so not the same as the social studies or civics curriculum adoption. But I can speak to the thorough process that we have in place to select curriculum used in our schools. That being said, I feel like we should always be willing to question and hear different viewpoints, and so we'd want to hear feedback. But generally, I'm not a candidate that is looking to remove books from the library. As you likely know, as a sidebar, in July, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of parents seeking to opt children out of reading LGBTQ-themed books. Personally, I'm supportive of LGBTQ representation in our books, but as a public school system, we also need to respect parents' rights and ultimately follow the rules set by the courts. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question, candidate Laurence.
I also don't believe in banning books or taking books out of classrooms. I think that is bad. There is a board policy, that's policy number 2311P, section 6B, requests for review and removal of supplemental instructional materials. A parent can submit a written request to review and remove instructional materials to the teacher and principal. If the parent requests, the school will arrange for a meeting with a parent and teacher and principal to address the parent's concern and find a resolution. If the issue cannot be resolved, the principal and teacher librarian will make a written decision on whether to remove them or not. Decisions must be done within 30 days of the parent making the meeting request. And if the parent or teacher disagrees with the principal, it then goes on.
Thank you. Thank you. Candidate Clarke, your response, please.
Yes, I believe that school boards should listen respectfully. However, they should stand firm in their duty to provide comprehensive and inclusive education. When this type of request comes before the school board, I think that we need to look at the intent of the person making the request, because sometimes these types of requests are initiated with a discriminatory intent. And I think that while the courts can provide guidance, we as a school board have a duty to advocate for policies that are inclusive and to make sure that none of our students are being disproportionately targeted by these types of requests. So what I would do is consult with educators, ensure transparency and public dialogue, protect diverse perspectives, especially those that reflect the lived experience of our students, and make sure that we have all the books and let our students make the choice and what content they choose to believe or how they choose to
Thank you.
operationalize it.
Candidate Langley, your answer, please.
As an educator, I am against any calls for book bans in our district, and as a board, we must emphasize the trust we have in the expertise of our school librarians, who really do understand which books are developmentally appropriate and which aren't. Furthermore, changes in the district-provided curriculum must go through an extensive committee review, and it's our job to ensure that our committees include diverse voices. Decisions around curriculum must be research-based, culturally responsive, and support the success of all students. So when it comes to curriculum, that's the process that we need to go to, and we ultimately need to be backed by our state policy.
Thank you. And candidate Rewolinski.
Thank you. I want our children to be exposed to all sides, which I believe is important in developing grown-ups that are good critical thinkers. And I invite all community members to get involved in curriculum adoption. We recently approved elementary music curriculum where 83 people helped review prior to approval. That I think is a remarkable level of community engagement. And so, yeah, I think we have an incredible community that helps us make sure our curriculum is strong. However, we can make mistakes, and in those cases, I would point our parents, students, and community members to Policy 2311 and the related procedure to fill out the form explaining why they don't believe the material is appropriate, and we'll act on that.
Thank you. Candidate Laurence, you'll start off this next question. The loss of funding has serious implications for local schools. How would you address these budget issues?
First, I would advocate to the state legislature for more funding. Second, I would pursue bond and levy funding to fill the gaps. And finally, I would realign resources to provide services that directly affect student learning. Regulatory, legal, and contractual requirements would need to be considered. Consolidating and reorganizing work increases efficiencies and also must be considered. And some creative budgeting ideas like cutting back on landscaping or maybe cutting some sports, developing partnerships to coordinate needs and increase professional development. So no substitute teachers would need to be hired. As a school board director, our role is to make policy decisions. I would rely on the experts to make informal decisions on the options and balance the budget that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question, candidate Clarke.
Yes, thank you. I think that we must make sure that all cuts fall as far away from the classroom as possible. So we should always prioritize student and teacher experience and not cut materials funding or cut teacher positions. We also need to make sure that we have resilient budgets that account for potential funding cuts from federal or state government. I would not cut any sports or the arts because those provide a lot of value that students carry into adulthood and far beyond the classroom, teaching lessons in sportsmanship and citizenship. I would also think that we need to include we need to include the community more in our budgetary decisions. For the 2025-2026 budget, there was zero public comments. I think that we need to do better and informing the community on how they can be engaged in the budget process and be good stewards of taxpayer funds. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Langley, your response.
Well, I think it's important to remember that board decisions about the budget aren't made in isolation. So when it comes to looking at any potential budget shortfalls, I will collaborate with my fellow board members, the community, and the district's experts while also providing my educational expertise around budget allocations, such as technology investments, professional development, and curriculum to ensure that we remain laser focused on student success because I can guarantee you I know it works and I know it doesn't work. And when it comes to revenue sources, the majority of our district's funding comes through the state, so I will use my strong relationships with legislators and my platform to continue calling for progressive revenue, like the capital gains tax that my union, the Washington Education Association, fought to keep in our state and brought in almost $900 million for building construction and early learning.
Thank you. Candidate Rewolinski, your answer, please.
Thank you. School funding in Washington is primarily provided by the state, about 80%. And so we can't let our legislators forget how important it is, and that it's the paramount duty of the state as enshrined in our state constitution. So that's the most critical thing. Outside of that, I would say that we can anticipate these things. We have multi-year long-range financial forecasts. I want those based on reasonable enrollment assumptions and collective bargaining outcomes on the expense side. In the event of unforeseen circumstances, it's absolutely critical that we protect student learning and the classroom when we face tough decisions.
Thank you. And candidate Hirman.
As I mentioned in my priorities, we need to allocate our limited resources effectively to maximize their impact in our classrooms and for our students. Ultimately, we need to make sure that our current and future expenses do not exceed revenues. So first up, we need to make sure we're adopting budgets that reflect the reality of funding, even when that means making tough choices. That also means advocating at the state level, as mentioned. This is what I had done as legislative representative on the board and what Roman is currently doing. Our legislators need to know what challenges we're facing in order for them to do their job at the state level. As many of you know, basic education is considered the paramount duty of our state. So to answer the question of how I would address budget issues, passing a budget that's balanced within our general fund, utilizing community input to determine and prioritize needs, keeping a general fund balance ideally above 6%, staying apprised of upcoming changes, and advocating with our legislature.
Thank you. Candidate Clarke, how will you advocate to improve educational outcomes for all children in the district?
Thank you. That's a great question. We need to make sure that our students are supported from ECAP through high school. We can do this by providing early interventions and support service for students who need them, culturally responsive teaching and professional development, family engagement strategies that build trust and collaboration, and by taking data-driven approaches to close opportunity and student performance gaps. Recent reporting by the Everett Herald has indicated that while Snohomish County schools as a whole and Everett Public Schools are doing great and on the right track, there remain significant performance gaps with certain groups within our school community. And I think that we really need to focus a lot of attention and resources on those performance gaps and figure out a way to close them. Every child deserves a chance to thrive and reach for the American dream, and that means meeting them where they are and removing barriers to success. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question, candidate Langley.
Thank you. I was taking notes. Even though Everett Public Schools has a high graduation rate, we still have students slipping through the cracks. Students who might be dealing with mental health struggles or lack of support at home. They've started down a downward spiral and they need a caring adult who has the right resources to get them back on track. That's why I'll use my voice as an educator and my experience as an educator to really elevate the conversation around student supports. That includes conversations around curriculum, educator and educational support professional training, as well as how we can bring our community members in, our family members in, and businesses and organizations who can take on some of the roles that our teachers, our educators who are overtaxed can't take. And that also includes working with our city council and other elected officials to really provide that educational excellence and student support.
Thank you. Candidate Rewolinski, your response, please.
Okay. The primary way I think to influence educational outcomes is through the development and progress monitoring of the district's strategic plan. In collaboration with the district's educational experts, our strategic plan is focused on ensuring third grade literacy, increasing math and science achievement, reducing achievement gaps among student groups, and ensuring students are prepared for success in college and career. And finally, in strengthening student wellness and engagement, or wellness, engagement, and safety. Then, through regular monitoring and reporting, we hold district administration responsible and advocate for good decisions, especially in areas of weakness, like our multilingual learners.
Thank you. Candidate Hirman, your answer, please.
So similar theme. I think supporting the work of our current district strategic plan is key. One of our strategic themes in our current plan is effective instructional practices, which means ensuring teaching practices meet the needs of each diverse learner. And so this involves our schools using MTSS, multi-tiered systems of supports, to make sure students are getting the supports that they need. As a school director, supporting MTSS, training around effective teaching strategies, and investing in programs that are adaptive for student learning, such as iReady, which is used in our schools. There's no one-size-fits-all answer, but we need to support our teachers in reaching all students. Also, tracking progress of diverse groups of students and reporting out those results. Recently, we were looking at the increase in CTE enrollment by multilingual learners and how that has increased over the last 4 years. So in many of our metrics of student achievement and participation, we look to see which groups of students might be needing additional support, and we track that progress.
Thank you. And candidate Laurence.
There must be equitable access to resources to support learning, regardless of what area of the community a student lives in. Such resources include early learning programs, classroom technology, working with different learning styles. In addition, with 60% minority student population, 70 languages spoken, we need to educate students efficiently to keep pace with the curriculum. Our schools should provide online translation programs to accelerate student integration and success. We need to keep funding professional development for teachers who work with ESL students. There should be more tutoring and summer school to ensure reading proficiency by third grade, which has been stated before is part of our strategic plan, as well as increasing achievement in math and science. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Langley, you'll start us off on this next question. Please share your thoughts on inclusive practices and how these concepts impact education in your school district.
Thank you. Every child deserves access to high quality education in the classroom with their grade level peers. And inclusion is the way to make that happen. But inclusion can only work if educators have support and training to meet the needs of learners who come to school with a wide range of ability levels and behavior needs. And educators, families, and administration, in my opinion, need more clarity in the district on what inclusion looks like, on policies and protocols for inclusion. And as an educator, we would love to see more of that support in our buildings and with our families. When it comes to inclusion, our families still don't quite understand what that means. And I think that lack of transparency can be answered by getting out into our PTAs, into our organizations, and really communicating that.
Thank you. Thank you. Same question, candidate Rewolinski.
Inclusive practices is a term not a lot of people they use all the time, but to me, it means making sure that every student feels welcome and supported and able to succeed no matter their background, abilities, or circumstances. Research shows that inclusive practices raise student achievement, improve social emotional well-being, and ultimately result in safer, more supportive schools, and ultimately in a stronger community. Inclusion is essential to our mission and our strategic plan. I consider it at least in every decision that I make about curriculum, supporting staff training, accessibility, and student support services, so that each and every child has the opportunity to reach their full potential.
Thank you. Candidate Hirman, your response.
I think inclusive practices are really just best practices in teaching. This starts with our core value of seeing and celebrating diversity, that diversity itself is an asset to our community. No two students have the same abilities or background, and yet our mission is to reach every child. So this means differentiated instruction and culturally responsive teaching methods, and these are all part of effective instruction. And again, this is part of our current strategic plan. So one example of this in our schools is the use of GLAD strategies for English language students. GLAD stands for Guided Language Acquisition Design, and it's a set of teaching techniques that help teachers support students, especially English learners. And this can be using physical movements like students clapping for each syllable or using visual representations of vocabulary up on the wall in the classroom. So again, inclusive practices are just best practices in teaching, and they're fun to see in action. It's great to see them in our schools.
Thank you. Candidate Laurence, your answer, please.
Inclusion is the belief that all students have the right to a meaningful academic and social opportunities in general education settings. This is based on the belief that all children are capable and should be held to a very high standard. Unfortunately, students with disabilities are often left out of core instruction. Washington State is one of the least inclusive states. We rank 44th out of 50 nationwide. Roughly 57% of the students that receive special ed services spend 80 to 100% of the day in general education. Support does exist in improving equity and inclusion practices in our schools. In 2020, the state legislature gave the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction $25 million over 2 years for professional development to educate inclusion education.
Thank you. And Candidate Clarke.
Yes, thank you. I think inclusive practices are foundational to student success. When I think about inclusive practices, I think about universal design for learning, and really that every child, no matter what zip code they live in or what background they come from, has a meaningful opportunity to the resources they need to have a great school day every day. I think it means supporting all our students, including our LGBTQ students, multilingual learners, and students with disabilities, making sure that our students with disabilities, that their parents have clear guidance on how to be an important part of IEP teams, for instance. And I want to say, since I am a district parent, I want to say North Middle School does an excellent job of this right now. They've done a great job with my child, making sure that he's celebrated. So I want to give a shout out to some of his teachers, Miss Fitzgerald and Miss Clugston, and also Principal Ream. And thank you for creating an inclusive community at North Middle School.
Thank you. This next question, Candidate Rewolinski, you'll be first to answer. Everett School Board directors serve 6-year terms. Do you support this term structure? Are there changes you would recommend? Please explain.
I support the 6-year term structure because it provides stability and continuity for the district. Major initiatives like strategic plans, curriculum adoptions, facility projects often take years to fully implement and evaluate. Longer terms give board members the time to see those efforts through and make decisions and not worry about whether or not they'll be reelected. They're making good decisions for the long haul. 6-year terms also remind candidates of the level of commitment that this work requires. Serving on the school board is a serious responsibility, and the term length helps ensure those who step forward are ready to engage deeply and consistently for the long haul.
Thank you. Same question, candidate Hirman.
Yes, we had discussed this at our board retreat this summer, and I'm in favor also of the 6-year term because it allows for a 2-2-1 election cycle where we typically do not have 3 director positions up for election in any one election year. Research shows that the stability and continuity of a school board, all with a shared vision around student success and well-being, has a positive impact on student achievement. In other words, school boards matter, and research is behind this. When our school district has a positive and effective governance team, this supports the entire work of the district and allows for growth. I think we've seen other districts that have a lot of turnover and conflict, and this ultimately disrupts the work that schools and teachers are doing in the classroom. So with that in mind, I'm in favor of the 2-2-1 election cycle for school directors, which means the 6-year term. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Laurence, your response.
I'm in favor of a 6-year term as it is, it ensures consistency, stability, knowledge, and ability to work on long-term goals like our strategic plan. It takes time and training to learn all of the intricacies of district policies, budgets, programs, and laws. It is important to have the institutional knowledge of how things were handled in the past. It's also valuable to the leadership staff to have a stable team of board members. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Clarke, your answer, please.
I agree with the other candidates that school boards matter. However, I believe we should explore changes. I'm in favor of term limits with a 4-year term with a maximum of 2 consecutive terms. And I'll tell you why. Common sense shows that over time things can become stale. And unfortunately, we don't want our school board to become like a country club vibe or we want to make sure that we have fresh voices and fresh faces in there so that it's a reflection of the community as the community grows. I think that those kind of term limits um, would allow us to maintain continuity because a 4-year term is still a long term. However, it would also allow the community to have a check over the power of the school board. We also need diversity on our school board. Our school board had a chance to choose diversity in the last appointment process, and they chose not to. So I think every 4 years, having an election would give the
Thank
community
you. Thank you. And candidate Langley.
I am in favor of exploring term limits that allow for the democratic process to proceed. I do believe that 6-year term limits, unfortunately, have shown to have school board members go through the appointment process more often than go through an election process, as is seen by the majority of the board members on our current board. So I believe that there is much room for exploration. I do believe that the public deserves a voice. I believe they deserve a champion who is their voice and will ensure that communication with the community is the priority and forefront of their their board term.
Thank you. Candidate Hirman, you'll start us off on this next question. Last year, a national release time for religious instruction franchise started operating in the Everett School District. How do you believe school districts should manage requests for these programs?
Yeah, thank you for the question. School districts need to be ready for this discussion. We've spent a lot of time on this past year, and I've spoken with directors from other districts in Washington and out of state. So my advice to other school districts is as follows. Start by looking at your current policies. It's likely that a district set of policies already covers much of what is being talked about. Religious related activities and practices. This is a model policy from WASDA that's been in place for years. Attendance policies and procedures, distribution of materials on campus, and student behavior expectations and norms. Likely, like ours in Everett, the policies already support the separation of church and state, that programs cannot take place on school property during the school day or use district resources. Also, protecting academic time, making sure any program does not impact a student's learning time with their classroom teacher. But once again, in managing RTRI requests, districts should start by looking at their own policies and making sure that they're being followed. And Everett's done a good job in this.
Thank you. Same question, candidate Laurence.
Under the 1952 U.S. Supreme Court case Zorach versus Clausen, the court ruled that New York's release time program, which allowed public school students to be excused from school to attend religious instruction off campus, was constitutional and did not violate the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment. A similar situation is going on in the Everett School District, where during the school day, students are taking RTRI during the non-instructional recess and lunchtime period to go off-site without using any public funding and requiring written parental approval each time. While this is legal, there should be parameters. Kids using release time should come and go in the least disruptive way as possible to not bother students that are left behind. And the same should be true when they come back. All materials of religious nature should be kept in their backpacks. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Clarke, your response, please.
Yes, thank you. I think that we need to take a more hands-on approach. I think that Everett has been penetrated by a group called LifeWise, and they're not analogous to what was happening in the Zurich case at all, because LifeWise has malicious intent. Chapter 1 of LifeWise's handbook says undoing public education. I don't know if any of the other candidates have read LifeWise's handbook. I did research on it. Undoing public education. We are supposed to uphold public education. So how can we give access to a organization whose goal is to undo public education? It's a disruption to learning. It spreads social exclusion, and it raises serious equity concerns. And I think our board used policies that weren't really on point to hide behind those policies instead of making an RTRI policy, and they have failed the community in so doing.
Thank you. Candidate Langley, your answer, please.
As a teacher, I wholeheartedly support families' rights to sign their students out for religious education, but this must be done by the parent or guardian, and allowing third-party organizations to take children out during the school day has too many logistical and ethical issues, and we must take a closer look at what we can do as the board so that we are not running into issues with our educator certificated contracts, running into educational time, and running into issues with bullying and harassment. So we need to take a closer look at what is actually possible and bring it up on the board so that the community can have a say as well.
Thank you. And candidate Rewolinski.
First, I believe that the district needs to respect the rights of parents, the First Amendment, and to follow the law. I don't personally support or endorse programs that provide off-campus religious instruction during the school day, and I prefer that students stay at school. But parents and guardians have the right to ask the district to release their child from school for religious or non-religious purposes and into the care of a named adult if they're not picking that child up. No organization should operate religious activities within our schools during school hours or use public resources.
Thank you. We've come to your final question, and it is this. Candidate Laurence, you'll start us off. Please tell us something about yourself that might surprise or intrigue voters.
As a child, I had amblyopia, which is otherwise known as lazy eye. And in school, I would wear a patch over my glasses on my left eye. And students would ask me, "Gosh, did you, hurt your eye? Or are you pretending to be a pirate?" And once I explained my situation, my classmates were so sympathetic and understanding. And I felt that was really nice. And eye patches today have really evolved into something different. I mean, when I was a kid, it was just a plain color, either white or green or black eye patch. But now today, you can get ones with butterflies or racing cars or hearts. So anyway, that's my little tidbit for the day.
Thank you. Same question, candidate Clarke.
Yes, thank you. One thing that might intrigue or surprise voters is I'm an avid skateboarder and I'm kind of a bigger guy now, so it's kind of not as easy as it used to be, but I'm an avid skateboarder. I've been skateboarding for 25 years, both indoor and outdoor. I really thoroughly enjoy it. And then since I have a little bit more time, another thing is I really enjoy musicals and especially musicals that have been turned into movies. So like Hello Dolly, South Pacific movies like that. I thoroughly enjoy that. And I really, really love the weather of Washington. That's the last thing I'll say. I know some people think it's kind of cold and dreary during the winter months, but I love that it never gets super hot here. And I want to use the last bit of my time to say that I really appreciate the League of Women Voters for putting this on, and that I really believe that the parents and teachers and students in our district are amazing, and I'd be humbled with the opportunity to serve them.
Thank you. Candidate Langley, your response.
I think many people during COVID picked up new habits like baking, but the hobby that I picked up was watercolor. And I picked up watercolor for my mental health and as a creative outlet. And I continue to do watercolor to this day. I teach it to my students, and I have adult sip and paint classes that I teach as well. And in my younger years, continuing on the arts theme, I was a competitive figure skater. So I take every opportunity that I can to support our local skaters and just make sure that we're out there supporting our athletes because it is so important for our students to have activities outside of school. And on top of that, I also just want to add my thanks to the League of Women Voters. Civics and civic education is so incredibly important. And as an alternate elector for Kamala Harris, I can say that this process has been thoroughly enjoyable. So thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Rewolinski, your answer, please.
Something that might intrigue or surprise voters. After high school, I joined the Navy, and I served in the intelligence community. So I was a code breaker in the Navy. I deployed on 8 fast attack nuclear submarines. I was stationed in Pearl Harbor, and I'm so old now that the submarines that I deployed on have been, some of them anyway, have been decommissioned, like the USS Los Angeles. It was a great time. It was great service, and I even had an opportunity. We surfaced on one deployment in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. No land or other ships could be seen. The water was like glass, and we got to go swimming. So I jumped off a sub into the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
Thank you. And candidate Hirman.
This is a great way to end the forum. Thank you. And also thanks for hosting this tonight. For me, I had already mentioned that I was in the Peace Corps. And so my intriguing fact maybe is that that's where I met my husband. He's from Colorado and we served together. We'll be celebrating 30 years this next summer of marriage. But we love the food from West Africa where we served. And there's still one of our favorite recipes called domada that we make. And we search out West African restaurants. So if you've ever been to Heritage in Everett, they've got some great food there. But just thanks again for tonight. And I learned some new things. So that's it.
Thank you.
The League thanks these candidates for joining us and for running for office. We encourage our audience to explore additional information about these and all candidates. Recordings of all League forums, those recorded for the primary and the general election, are available on the League of Women Voters of Snohomish County website on YouTube and on our podcast channel. Find links at lwvsnoho.org under the Voter Toolkit tab. If you prefer written responses, vote411.org, sponsored by the League, is another good source of information. Ballots and your Snohomish County voters pamphlet will be mailed starting October 17th. Election Day is Tuesday, November 4th. Please be a voter. Thank you to our League Candidate Forum team and the Candidate Forum Coalition. And of course, thank you for joining us. This concludes our Candidate Forum.